This training covers staff hourly positions using the automated time cards. As you can see, I have an example time card here, and I have a position which is an example position called staff hourly position title. This tab represents the title of the position you're filling the time card out for. So you're going to obviously have a specific title for whatever your title might be. But you could have multiple tabs. If you have multiple tabs, that means you have multiple positions, and each position has a time card associated with it. So you will need to fill out time cards for each position that you have. In this example, we're just going to use the one. So this is an hourly position, and the pay period is the current pay period, so Monday 3/24 through Sunday 4/6. And notice that the position or the pay period is outlined in the calendar view. The 3 days that are represented in red are days that are in the past that do not have hours associated with them. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. The day that I'm on, the current day, or today's date, is the 27th, and it's white and it's highlighted in blue. There are two icons associated with the pay period, and they're important to note what those icons are for or what they represent. The first icon is on the Sunday at the end of the pay period, and that represents the entry, the time entry cutoff date. Now that's extremely important for you to remember. You have until midnight on that day for each pay period. It's going to be the Sunday of the end of the pay period at midnight. You have until midnight to submit your hours, which means you're going to click here to finalize your time card. When you do that, it is sent to your supervisor electronically, and your supervisor has 1 day, represented by this icon, has 1 day to approve your time card that you've submitted and then to send that directly to the payroll office through the automated system. If you do not submit your time card before midnight, your supervisor will submit your time card on your behalf. However, if you had hours that were missing during the pay period, your supervisor may not know that because you did not enter them, and therefore you may not get all of the hours that are needed on your time card. So it's extremely important that you follow the process of submitting your time card before midnight on the date of the end of the pay period. There are a couple of fields down here that are important for entering your time. For instance, on this particular day, when this day is highlighted, this is representing that day. If I were to click on the 26th, this would be representing the 26th, and notice the date changes. So we're going to go all the way back to Monday, and we're going to enter some hours that we worked. So let's say I worked 5 hours on Monday, and I'm going to save those hours. And I worked 8 hours on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I actually worked 6 hours, and I took, say, 2 hours of vacation time. I would just choose 2 hours of vacation, and I would enter that. So I worked a total of 8 hours, two of which were vacation hours. On the 27th, I'm going to work 6 hours, but I'm going to take an hour of vacation, 1 hour of vacation, and I'm going to take 1 hour of sick leave. So if I save my hours, I have 8 hours again, but 8 hours in a variety of ways. I may work, let's say that on Tuesday, I actually worked a couple of hours of overtime. I would put in my 2 hours, I would specify that they're overtime, and I would save them. So I have 10 hours on Tuesday, 2 of which are overtime. Notice up here that my hours are accumulating. So here are my regular hours that I've entered, my overtime hours, the time I'm taking for sick leave, and the time I'm taking for vacation. And those hours are accumulating. And I would continue to add in my time throughout the pay period. But notice what happens when I click on a day that's in the future. When I do that, I cannot enter hours. The system is set up to not allow you to enter hours in the future. So that's just important to keep in mind. Once we get to the end of the pay period and you're ready to finalize your time card, you'll click here to finalize, and a pop-up menu will come up which says if you finalize your hours, they're going to be read-only, which means you will not be able to edit them. However, your supervisor will get a copy of your time card and could edit them for you. In this example, I'm not going to mark them final because I don't want to actually lose the time card. But if I were to do that, I would not be able to enter time anymore. All right, there are a couple of things I want to point out. One is that you have two views. The default view is the calendar view, but you can also switch to a grid view, which shows you day by day and the hours that you worked and the different types of hours. You can enter in either view, whichever one you'd like. I'm going to switch it back to calendar view. And then under time card settings, you have a couple of things you can set, which would be default settings. You would want to set the days of the week that you're typically off, and then which of the two views is your default view that you want. And then once you set those, you just save them, and they'll be that way for your defaults until you change them again. Now I want to show you what the time card looks like as you're entering time. So notice I have my 31 hours, these different types of hours, and I want to show you what that looks like from a supervisor's perspective. So I'm going to come out here, I'm going to click on hourly staff, and I'm going to choose, this obviously is just an example, I'm going to choose my particular time card that I have here. Notice that I have my 25 hours, my 2 hours of overtime, and my 4 hours of other time, some other kind of time off. Now I can click on this, and now remember, I'm the supervisor, so I'm looking at my employee's time card, and I can see the different kinds of hours that they are submitting, and I can see how they've submitted it through time. And I also want to show you that you can add comments or edit hours. And I want to show you what that looks like as the employee, because this might be very, very useful for you. Once you come back in here and you click on the time card, you can enter information in here. And I'm just going to say something like, this is an example of a comment. Now, this might be the place where you want to put, hey, you know, I had to work some extra overtime to get such and such project done. Whatever it might be that you want to communicate to your supervisor, you would want to actually put that in these comments, and you save this. And now I want to show you what that looks like from a supervisor's perspective. So I come back out here, click on my hourly staff. From a supervisor's perspective, here's what I see. I see that example down here. So you may want to say, you know, hey, on Tuesday, 3/25, I had 2 hours of overtime because I had to cover a class, or I had to cover, you know, some project, whatever that might be. But this is a great way for you to communicate with your supervisor. Once your supervisor has approved your time, they actually submit that time to payroll, and it's all automated and it goes directly to payroll.